Join us as we explore the disappearance of 3 different villages throughout history. Where did they go? What happened to them? And why could no one find them? Was it just time for them to leave, or were there more sinister elements at play? Journeying across the ocean, in the late 16th century, an audacious voyage carried English settlers to the shores of Roanoke Island in search of a new beginning. Led by the intrepid John White, this expedition in 1587 sought to establish a foothold in the uncharted territories of the New World. Their dreams, however, would collide with the unforgiving reality of life in the wilderness. The colony grappled with diminishing supplies, internal strife, and mounting tensions with local native tribes. This forcing John White to make a heart-wrenching decision. In a bid to secure much-needed aid, he embarked on a perilous journey back to England, leaving behind his granddaughter Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America, and a struggling settlement. White's return, eagerly awaited by those he had left behind, was delayed by a tumultuous chapter in England's history, the Anglo-Spanish War. The war, with its appetite for resources and attention, took precedence over his mission. 3 long years would pass before he could set sail back to Roanoke. In 1590, when John White finally returned to the island, he was met by a chilling and perplexing sight. The colony he had left behind had vanished. White walked through the town, its wooden structure still standing but void of human life and overgrown by nature. The only clue to be found was the word Croatoan carved into a tree, hinting at the nearby Croatoan island, but it raised more questions than answers. Did the settlers find refuge with the local Croatoan tribe, or did they meet a more ominous end? Modern findings do include accounts from native descendants who claim ancestry from white settlers. These accounts, supported by genealogical and archaeological research, suggest that some of the Roanoke settlers may have integrated into local native communities. However, one can never be sure, as there were no records of these settlers' past verbal accounts, and John White was never able to locate any signs of survivors. Did they actually find peace, or were they driven out by the mounting tensions? After a fruitless search for his colony, a discouraged John White eventually sailed back to England, the town's sudden disappearance weighing heavily on his soul. We move now to the desolate wilderness of Canada's Arctic region, where a remote indigenous village lay concealed from the world. The Anjikuni Village was a small, tight-knit community, nestled amid the frigid and unforgiving landscape. In November 1930, a fur trapper named Joe LaBelle, familiar with the village, ventured to Anjikuni for a customary visit. As LaBelle approached the village, the chilling silence was unnerving. The Anjikuni village should have been alive with activity, but it lay empty, a ghost town in the heart of the Arctic wilderness. The huts and homes, once inhabited by the villagers, now stood abandoned. Yet the most perplexing aspect of this deserted scene was that it seemed as though the villagers had simply vanished. Their personal belongings, food, clothing, and precious possessions remained undisturbed in their homes. Unfinished shirts with needles still in them lay in huts, and food hung over fire pits. Outside, the villagers' sleds lay untouched, and after further investigation, an empty grave was found with ceremonial stones laying around it. As word of the Anjikuni village's mysterious disappearance spread, the tale started to develop new eerie layers. Reports surfaced of strange lights and unidentified flying objects in the vicinity around the time of the Vanishing Act. Rumors of similar incidents in the region added to the mystique, painting a picture of a place where the line between reality and the unexplained was blurred. Some suggested that the villagers may have chosen to leave, driven by the challenges of their way of life or an encroaching modern world. Others entertained more ominous ideas, hinting at supernatural forces or even extraterrestrial involvement. The question still remains: where did they all go, and why did they have to leave? Far across the world, in the vast reaches of India, there is a village that conceals a sinister and chilling secret. It is another place where people vanished without a trace. Even now, the locals avoid this forsaken area, driven by a deep-seated fear that unseen malevolent forces roam its streets. Situated in the arid district of Rajasthan, Kuldhara remains a place of mystery. To reach it, one must journey by taxi to the nearest village or city, as it stands isolated and far from other settlements. In its prime, 19th century Kuldhara was a thriving and sizable village. Its people, predominantly farmers, thrived on agriculture and trade, their bountiful harvest finding great success in market stalls. Then, one fateful evening, its residents abandoned their homes and belongings and vanished into the obscurity of the night. Local villagers soon visited the ghost town and were met with an eerie sight. Clothes, tools, and furniture were left behind, seemingly untouched. Fields were abandoned, with crops left to wither and die. The motives behind this mass exodus remain a mystery. Some theorize a lack of water drove the villagers away, but it fails to address the inexplicable haste with which they departed, leaving their possessions behind. The prevailing narrative suggests oppressive taxes and unfair demands imposed by the ruling authorities. Faced with these unbearable pressures, the villagers chose to leave their ancestral village behind. But if true, where did they disappear to? And why is there no trace of their journey? The disappearance of these villages and communities is a chilling reminder of the secrets that can remain hidden in the most remote corners of the world, just waiting to be unraveled by those willing to explore the unknown.